money doesn't make sense, savings doesn't make sense. And what it's led to is hyper gambling mentality. People are just punting and speculating and gambling because nothing has value anymore. We've got what is known as a fractional reserve banking system. Once you send funds into a bank or an institution, it's no longer your funds. They can lend out your deposit 10 times over through just literal currency creation. In crypto space, you take on bigger risk for less reward when you could have just bought Bitcoin. In the long term, Bitcoin will most definitely, or most likely, outperform 99.9% of holds. I would have massively outperformed my garbage portfolio of random altcoins and leverage positions and punts and bets that I took over the last 10 years if I just bought and held Bitcoin. There's still 10x opportunity, 20x opportunity, because Bitcoin's still only $2 trillion as a market. I'm building for Bitcoin to be a 10, $20 trillion asset class, commanding $1 million.
Today I'm joined by Bisher Khudeira, who's the partner and chief operating officer at Stormrake, one of Australia's fastest growing Bitcoin brokerages. Today we're going to dive into what's really happening beneath the surface of the financial system, the solution to that, and what it means for you if you're trying to make sense of money, freedom, sovereignty, and opportunity as we head into 2026. Bish, if you look at the average Gen Z today, what is broken in how they understand money and what's going on right now?
It's a great question. First of all, thanks for having me on, Finn. It's a pleasure to be here and I appreciate the invitation. So the biggest problem with the Gen Z crowd, and I don't say that talking down, I'm 31. I'm what is known as a boomer millennial. I'm on the older end. But my brother is 28, my sister is 23. So I understand what that community, that generation is going through, which is a broken financial system. Money doesn't make sense, savings doesn't make sense. And what it's led to is hyper gambling mentality. Everybody's punting, everybody's on the bookies, everybody's at sports bet. I mean, we're having a chat today. It's the Melbourne Cup day today here down south in Melbourne. And everybody's just punting away. You know, you get sports bet odds in quarter time and half time at the footy. It's just encouraging gambling. And then you look at crypto. In the crypto markets, you've got things like pump fund. You've got prediction markets like Polymarket and Kalshi going out and raising massive valuations because people are just punting and speculating and gambling because nothing has value anymore. Everything is just so flippant. And if people aren't coming into the markets, they're actually getting completely hosed just trying to save and do the right thing. You know, I feel like Gen Z and even to a lesser extent millennials, but particularly Gen Z, I've got kids who are quite young. They've gotten a really bad deal, in all honesty with you, because the social contract has been broken. They've been left with massive amounts of debt. Public debt and private debt is at highest levels it's ever been. And that's because of the way that the financial system is structured. It grows on credit, it grows on debt. And then what that does is it robs people of their futures. And now people are having to hyper gamble on things like derivatives, CFDs, perpetuals, prediction markets, stock markets. There's no value to the monetary system anymore. And I think that's why Bitcoin is so important to me. It's not just a speculative asset that has number go up philosophy. It's just that it could be able to bring back savings accounts into the hands of many people, especially the younger generation.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And let's dive into what you've just said there. For people listening in a simple way, you've said that the financial system is set up not to benefit our generation, that it's kind of surviving at the moment just about on debt. What does that mean for Gen Z and people as a whole, and where does it lead them if they don't look to these solutions like Bitcoin for a savings technology?
Yeah, I mean, you got to look at it's the philosophy and the economics behind what we're talking about is called Keynesian economics, which is essentially government intervention, central bank currency printing and monetary planning. And then you've got on top of that, the way that most currency comes into creation is through credit. and credit expansion. So, for example, we've got what is known as a fractional reserve banking system here in Australia, and most of the Western world has fractional reserve banking. So, you go to your local bank branch, one of the big four, and deposit your life savings. Let's call it $100,000. That $100,000 can now be lent 10 times over. So somebody comes in and is looking for $1 million mortgage to be able to buy their first home. They lend out your deposit. You become an unsecured creditor. That's first and foremost, which is a big problem because once you send funds into a bank or an institution, it's no longer your funds. So that we can unpack that later on. And then they can lend out your deposit 10 times over through the just literal currency creation. So they don't have $1 million to lend out. Let's assume you're the only depositor at that bank. There's $100,000 in deposits, but they've got $1 million in credit now that they go out and send out to people. Their liability, the person who's taking on the mortgage, that debt, that liability becomes a bank asset, right? And so what happens is they've just created 900,000 out of thin air, right? And Keynesian economists say that's good because that expands the economy and that creates more opportunity and more prosperity. Whilst true in the short term, in the long term, what it does is it devalues the currency base and it causes rampant credit and debt creation. And then it causes people to be just pretty much living on interest month to month. I mean, in Australia, we've got some of the worst credit card debt in the nation, in the planet. Household debt to GDP ratio is close to 200%, which is astonishing. Australians, especially young Australians, are not just living paycheck to paycheck anymore. That was previous generation. They're living credit to credit now, from one credit card to the next rollover to the next rollover. So it's not good. And I think that what Bitcoin does, whilst it is volatile, whilst it's still a young asset class, it still empowers people to have savings like technology so that they can hold their funds themselves with zero counterparty risk, which is super important. And then secondly, it allows the person who's investing in Bitcoin to have a savings account that can't be messed with.
Yeah. And you're in this space every day. You're in the trenches speaking to different people. So I'm curious from your seat in the industry, what you think the biggest misconception people still have around Bitcoin as ultimately their way out to start saving and having a better life.
I think a lot of people look at Bitcoin as a speculative investment, that it's no longer a question of should I allocate to Bitcoin, which was when I came into the space 10 years ago. People weren't even talking about Bitcoin as part of their portfolio allocation mix. They were talking about stocks, bonds, foreign currencies, commodities like precious metals, but they weren't really talking about Bitcoin at all. At all. Then over the last few years, it's been more of a conversation of how much should I allocate? 1%, 2%, 3%, and then we're seeing the ramifications of that with the ETF adoption, the fact that it's become institutionalized as an asset. And so for me, I think the biggest misconception being in front of people all the time is a lot of folk anticipate that this is just purely a speculative investment, that you buy, you hold, and there's that hodler mentality that you never touch your Bitcoin, chuck it in cold storage. But that's dead sats, right? It's good to chuck it in cold storage. It's good to have a portion of your savings account offline and not accessible to any third party. But for Bitcoin to win and for Bitcoin to continue to succeed, you need to use your Bitcoin. So I've been traveling a lot lately this year, traveling across the world. I've been to Thailand, Singapore, Malaysia, UAE, the United States. That's all just in 2025. And I've been using my Bitcoin wherever I possibly can, either spending it in kind or converting it into local fiat currency, whether it's Malaysian ringgit, Singapore dollars, whatever it may be, to then get liquidity locally. But the whole thing is that Bitcoin is meant to be used as peer-to-peer electronic cash. And I think the biggest misconception for me is that people just see it as a speculative asset when it is so much more than just a way to park your funds and grow your wealth. There is an aspect to that, but there's more than that.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the next piece on the education curve for a lot of people to start understanding once they understand Bitcoin fundamentally. Just last weekend, the barber just near us in Australia's accepts Bitcoin. And he's the owner of the shop, but the guy that cut my hair didn't accept Bitcoin and he didn't know that you could even transfer Bitcoin like that. So we showed him a payment and he was blown away by the fact you could even do it, and
Yeah.
then the speed of it as well. So he's now on his orange pill journey. But I agree with you that that's an important part of what's to come in the future to keep Bitcoin growing and the adoption increasing. On that, I heard on a podcast the other day you said Bitcoin's the only asset you feel comfortable recommending to people now. And I'm curious why that is, because like you said, a lot of people just see it as a speculative asset. So to that, a lot of people, that's probably crazy.
It is. It is. And I mean, I'm in a space where I'm a crypto broker, right? So I'm not just a Bitcoin only broker. So I've seen over the last 6 years professionally and 3 years running my own business here at Stormrake, I've seen a lot of trends come and go. I've seen altcoins, I've seen meme coins, I've seen the dino coins all have their time in the sun, pump and then dump and then be orchestrated with these coordinated influencer efforts to pump up a hashtag or pump up a ticker symbol. It's just really toxic. And for 99.9% of traders or investors or whatever they call themselves, they're going to get absolutely hosed and hunted down in a really predatory market. So for me, if I've got somebody who's selling an investment property or selling portions of their stock portfolio or liquidating their stock portfolio, or they're coming to me and they're rolling over their industry super fund into a self-managed, which is a big part of what we do as self-managed super funds here. And then I'm not going to position them in anything other than Bitcoin because I don't feel comfortable in exposing them to the other garbage list of coins that exist, right? Some might do well. I'm not saying that they're going to underperform Bitcoin in the short term because they're quite volatile, so they can outperform in the short term. But in the long term, Bitcoin will most definitely, well, most likely outperform 99.9% of alts. And that's what we've seen over the last few years. What part of my job is actually educating investors as to the risks that they're taking because they just think that they're taking on bigger risk for bigger reward. But in crypto space, you take on bigger risk for less reward when you could have just bought Bitcoin. And it's like, that's a big education piece. It's like, it's not just a simple heuristic where I'm assuming more risk. I'm happy to have a 50%, 60% drawdown. Therefore, I get a 10x. It doesn't work that way, right? Markets are quite efficient and they go to where capital is treated best. Capital is treated well in Bitcoin. It's a fantastic asset. You're not going to get diluted. There's no CEO. There's no possibility for the value of your assets to be diminished outside of anything other than market forces, supply, demand. But there's no centralized institution deciding to print more Bitcoins that day or that they're going to restrict Bitcoins from the market to artificially decrease supply to pump up the price. It just comes down to market participants buying and selling Bitcoins on the day. That's what sets the price. And so for me, it's what I feel comfortable doing because I want people to retain their investments with Stormrake for as long as possible. Even if they go to cold storage, I want to see my investors win because if my investors are winning and they're successful, they're more likely to recommend me to their friends and family. They're more likely to come back and invest again. They're more likely to just, stick around. Whereas if I get them in and I get them allocated to something other than Bitcoin, it doesn't feel good to me. And besides, as a broker, I get paid a commission fee, the same commission fee, whether you buy Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Solana, it doesn't change it for me. It genuinely, I don't mind what the investor chooses to buy or what the trader chooses to put a position on. But if somebody was to ask for my professional opinion, I say just focus on Bitcoin because the rest is just noise.
Yeah, and we'll dive in a bit later into what you do specifically. I've just sent over a good friend your way that's based in Australia, so I'm looking forward to you two connecting. You've obviously been in this space a while and know deeply what's going on. So I'm curious what made you realize that Bitcoin wasn't just another trade, but it was the fundamental shift that it is?
When I evaluated my portfolio in just Bitcoin terms. So I've been in crypto for nearly 10 years now, and I did a portfolio analysis of all of the times that I traded out of Bitcoin or I bought something other than Bitcoin. I would be up significantly. I would have massively, massively outperformed my garbage portfolio of random altcoins and leverage positions and punts and bets that I took over the last 10 years if I just bought and held Bitcoin, right? And even if I was to spend and use my Bitcoin within the economy where it's accepted, I would have still massively outperformed trading alts. I had some minor success in 2017 trading a couple of alts, but it was short-lived because these markets are built on paper-thin liquidity that can disappear in a second. And so for me, I just came to that realization back in probably 2021, just shortly after seeing the rise of a lot of different meme coins just get pumped and then dumped and then pumped and then dumped. And it's just like, it was really coordinated effort through different influences on social media. And I was just seeing people entering into the market and just getting slaughtered. And I was like, just buy Bitcoin, just buy Bitcoin, just buy Bitcoin. And I've been doing that message for the last 4 years. And whilst it hasn't won me over a lot of friends, not particularly within the crypto space, because they want their coin to be promoted. And I spend most of my day having token founders coming in and trying to shill their token to my client base. So they say, okay, we'll give you a 20% allocation to our token at a 10% discount from the market price if you can just go ahead and dump it on your client base. And I just say, no, thank you, no, thank you, no, thank you. So I'm not interested. And I'm not even replying. I'm just deleting the emails because it's just garbage. And so it's super predatory. And for me, my realization was just looking at my own portfolio and going, far out, I would have just done a lot better buying and holding Bitcoin. So that's why I'm recommending the same to my clients.
It's such a shame, man, isn't it? It's such a shame that that's where the bad reputation comes from, are these companies shilling their products with full intention to just pull the rug from under people. Such a shame. And that's why the program that we run, part of that is Take the Cry Out of Crypto. That's literally what the course is called, so that people can see the fundamentals, understand the fundamentals, and then act accordingly. So just before we move on, I'd like your thoughts or your advice to people that maybe feel like they're late to Bitcoin and that they need to speculate on these alts or they need to speculate on these meme coins. What would you say to those people?
It's a fantastic question, Finn. I mean, guys, gold, just this year, gold added 6 Bitcoins worth of market cap. What I mean by that, I'm not talking about 6 Bitcoin itself. I'm talking about the entire market cap of Bitcoin is probably about $2 trillion at the moment, $2.1 trillion. The gold market this year went from 2,800 to 4,500. But that's just the unit price. The actual market cap increase was close to a 10 to $12 trillion market cap increase, right? In 10 months, right? Which is the entire value of all of the Bitcoins on planet Earth increased the gold market cap 6 times over. That's wild, guys. We're so early to this investment. Don't let the unit price scare you away. If you want me to price your investments in Satoshis and that makes you feel comfortable, and that if you buy 0.1 of a Bitcoin, but instead of telling you that you've got 0.1 of a Bitcoin, I tell you that you've got 10 million sats, I'm more happy to do that. No problems. You're a holder of 10 million Satoshis, my friend, and you only had to invest $16,000 Australian to get that, because people love to feel like they've walked away with a lot of something. Well, I'll give you 10 million sats. No problems. So for me, don't look at the unit price of one Bitcoin because it's quite irrelevant. Because for example, gold is priced in 1 ounce bars. It's 31 grams. 31 grams is an ounce of gold. That's it. Nothing. And it's worth $4,500. If you price it by the kilo, it's more accurate towards where Bitcoin is trading at now. So it's just the unit amount in which we're tracking the price of Bitcoin at when you're checking the charts is what its actual value is trading at. So for example, if gold bars were priced in kilo bars and that was the spot price that we were tracking, you'd see the price go from 150 to 170, 170 to 190. That doesn't make gold less of a valuable investment. It's just that the value of more of it has gone up. And so I think for a lot of people who think that they're late to the party, gold's had a fantastic year. I think Bitcoin can definitely mirror some of that success when the market conditions and sentiment turns. But for me, you're incredibly early to one of the most fascinating asset classes that has been birthed over the last few years. It's only 16 years old, right? It's super young. And I think there's much more upside left in this asset class. For example, I've hired 34 employees in the last 12 months. I would not be hiring as aggressive as I am now if I was expecting Bitcoin, or I was expecting Bitcoin to be late, because I believe BTC can genuinely command more and more market share, especially as credit markets. I don't want to go too complex, but the bond market is in significant distress at the moment, particularly because the US government has to pay $1 trillion in interest expense every single year just to maintain their current debt load. And so they have to try to find ways to devalue the debt or devalue the currency in which the debt is paid in order to repay their their debt holders. And so for me, being a Bitcoin holder in that kind of macro environment is fantastic because there's still 10x opportunity, 20x opportunity, because Bitcoin's still only $2 trillion as a market. It could go to $20 trillion and it would still be worth less than the gold market. It could go to $50 trillion and it would still be worth half of the global equity market. So we've still got a long way to go before I think that the Bitcoin growth cycle or the growth story would come to a slowdown.
Yeah, man, we're so early, and for people in the space, you probably feel like you're not that early, especially when you get into it, you feel like you're late. But what ended up ultimately getting me to start sharing publicly more about Bitcoin and starting this podcast was when I had a conversation and someone asked, "Is Bitcoin still around?"
Yeah, that's crazy. Did they not check the Google or ChatGPT? There's so much ways you can learn.
Yeah, so early. Leading on to that, I'd love for you to share a bit about what you're building at Stormrake and what makes it different and what you help people with in particular.
It's a great question, my friend. So really what it boils down to is that we are a full service broker. So we help our clients buy and sell Bitcoin through a simple phone call or email. We ourselves are facing 20 different exchanges and 5 different private markets and OTC desks to get our clients the best price. So I'll give you an idea as to what I'm talking about. So right now on one of the major Aussie exchanges, I won't name names because I try to be a good sport about this type of thing. They are trading at $163,722 per Bitcoin right now, whereas you can get the same Bitcoin, one Bitcoin from me at 160,600 as we speak. So that means that you're going to save yourself about, call it $3,100 per Bitcoin, which works out to be about 2% difference in spot price, because what most Aussie exchanges do, and this is not to take a shot at them, this is just their business model, which is fine. They charge what is known as a spot premium or a premium over the spot price, and then the market price is here, and then they charge their fee on top. Whereas what we do is we charge a fee, flat fee, 2%, but then we get you the spot price no matter how much size you're buying, because we're able to execute through so many different venues. So whether somebody's buying $2,000, which is our transaction minimum, or whether they're looking to buy $2 million, the execution of the price will still be the same. The quality of execution will still be the same. And they're not going to have to worry about things like slippage, price premiums, markups, spreads. They just get the actual spot price at the time of the request, less the commission fee. And so that's how we operate as a brokerage firm. And we don't have to have our clients navigating deposits, trades, and withdrawals on their own. They can do in one email, give us their public wallet address, their transfer receipt, and the purchase instructions. So, for example, Finn, you transfer me 50 Gs, say, Bisher, buy Bitcoin, slap it in my cold wallet. And then I'll do a test transfer. You'll confirm it's received, and then the funds will be in your wallet same day. So pretty easy stuff. So for a lot of our clients, rather than having to manage a deposit, a trade, find out whether they're getting good fair value on the market, or leaving their order on the make so that the limit can come into it and fill, the client just gives us the instructions, we get it done, and even get to settle to their cold wallet as well.
Amazing. I love what you guys are doing and the service that you're providing, and you're getting amazing reviews and feedback from a bunch of people that I've spoken with as well. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts. I personally see a massive opportunity for Gen Z who have been saving money, how they've been told to, in a bank account because they're saving up for a deposit for a house to get on the property ladder.
Mm.
I see a big opportunity for those people that have been saving, that start realizing what Bitcoin really is and how much it can help them, as opposed to getting a property, that they've got a decent amount to move into Bitcoin. as opposed to starting from zero. Is this something you've had much experience with at Stormrake?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, I've been having that exact same conversation with my brother and my sister, right? My brother was really keen on getting onto the property ladder. I said to him, look, there's far better ways we can treat your capital, particularly with Bitcoin. My little sister, she saves in BTC, which is great. I've been kind of indoctrinated her over the last few years, if you will. But, whenever she's not like, she's still studying, she's studying law at the moment. And so she's not making crazy amounts of coin, working part time. But whatever she saves up, she flicks it over to me. Her big brother buys her some Bitcoin, put it in her wallet, job's done, right? And so for me, I think it is a massive monumental opportunity because there'll be this huge wealth shift as boomers pass on. God forbid it happens anytime soon and our grandparents stick around for a really long time. But there is going to be a huge wealth shift from boomers into Gen Z and Generation Alpha, which is where my children are sitting in. And what's going to come out of it is they are going to be the first digital asset native buyers, right? A lot of the adoption has come in from, older crowd, millennials, Gen X. Some boomers have really come into the space as well, really respected and love Bitcoin for what it is as a technology. And so we're going to watch this huge wealth shift come through. And you guys are going to be the first digital asset native investors, which is going to be awesome. It's like the first internet native users who came through. You grew up with just the internet, right? That's all that was ever known. And you've always seen that streaming and all that kind of stuff be accessible from day one. Whereas now investors are going to be coming into Bitcoin straight away without having to try to understand it because you're native to the space already.
Yeah, and it's going to be, especially for the generation after me, it's you're going to know no different. Like my
Mm-hmm.
generation's grown up with social media, and you know no different. You don't know what it used to be like, and that's what it's going to be like for the next generation. They don't know what it's like to not have Bitcoin, so it's going to be less of a step, and it's just going to be natural for them, which is really exciting in my opinion. So, what do you think stops most people and my generation from conversations that you're having, even after they understand that maybe they should be looking at Bitcoin and giving it some attention? What do you think stops most people from taking action?
I mean, we touched on it briefly, which was the fact that people believe that they're priced out of it. They look at the unit price and say, I don't have $160,000 lying around. I say, no, no, it's okay. You can buy $2,000 worth of it. You just get a smaller unit amount. So that is honestly, it's one of the biggest education pieces that we have to do out there is you can buy small unit amounts. We have a dollar cost averaging product. So our clients can DCA with Stormrake. For those who are not familiar with what DCA is, it's where you buy a set amount at a scheduled interval in advance. So, for example, Finn might have saved up $10,000. Bish, I want to DCA $1,000 a week for the next 10 months, right? Sorry, $1,000 a month for the next 10 months. No problems. At the start of the month, January 1st, February 1st, March 1st, $1,000 goes into the market, regardless of whatever price is happening. And you buy however much $1,000 worth of Bitcoin is trading at that time. And so for a lot of investors, especially the younger ones, they think that they're priced out of the market because they see the unit price. It's one of my biggest banes because it's not fair that people think that they can't come into the space just based off what the unit price is trading at. And I encourage everybody, especially the youngins, to go out there and set up a dollar cost average with Stormrake or an app of your choice, but I hope I could be your vendor. And then you go out there and you accumulate your Bitcoin and you do it in a way which is safe and secure and you just use it as a savings account. $500 a month, $500 a week, $500 a quarter. Doesn't matter. Just get started.
Yeah, and set and forget. And I've heard you say on another podcast, focus on your craft and your passion and let Bitcoin do the heavy lifting for you, where you don't have to be an investor part-time to benefit. You can just part your Bitcoin, save in Bitcoin, and your life gets better while you're doing it.
100%.
I like when I speak to my generation about them thinking they're priced out. You mentioned it earlier. I do like talking in Satoshis and then helping them see that with the market cap, one Satoshi will be 10 cents, then a
Yeah.
dollar.
Yeah.
Because if you can see that and then you can buy 10 million Satoshis, but in your mind, you know that in the future, that 10 million Satoshis that currently is 10,000 US dollars is $1 million in the future
Yeah.
equivalent. I think that helps people slightly see the bigger picture, but it's an interesting conversation to be having with these people that think it's too late. And fundamentally, that's where the education is so important because we're just getting started, like we've been saying. So
Absolutely. And I mean, I think as well, just on the note of focusing on your craft, you guys are so young. You know what I mean? My sister's studying law. My brother, he's really big in the wine industry. He's in import export of French and Italian wines. So you guys are young. You should be focusing on your skill set, your craft, learning as many skills as possible, whether you're a plumber, a sparky, whatever, an accountant, a lawyer, it doesn't matter. You should be focusing on your craft. You should be studying. You should be learning new languages. You should be traveling. You shouldn't be like stuck in this little box. The world is a beautiful place. Yes, there's lots of things that you can be concerned about, but it's still, there's an abundance of opportunity. And so just go out there, study hard, practice your craft, focus on your job, do it as a labor of love. You know, there's Japanese word, I think it's called ikigai, which is you do something that you love, you do something that you're good at, and you do something that you're remunerated for, right? And those are where like the real beauty of everything kind of overlays. So when you're young, you've got ample enough time to try different things, see what you love, see what you're good at, focus on your craft, whether it's in business or a more commercial endeavor, whether you're laboring, it doesn't matter. Go out there, try different things, see what you enjoy. When you find something that you love, hunker down, double down on that craft, and then get paid doing it and then save in Bitcoin. That's like a recipe for a really happy and healthy life. I tried a lot of different things before I found and discovered Bitcoin. So I tried online fruit and veg grocery selling. So I, contacted a bunch of local farmers in Victoria, said, can I buy some of your produce? And then I listed it online. People could shop and buy what they want as like a go-to market. I was trying to be the Amazon of the of Australia. Failed spectacularly, I have to say. But every time I tried something and failed at it, it got me closer and closer to what I loved. And then I found the financial markets when 2015 when I was 21, and I just fell in love. I started trading, started investing. So that trading in the markets, financial markets, became my craft. It became my industry. It became my profession. So I just so happened to fall into something that gave me a lot of opportunity, and I loved it. And obviously, I got paid well to do it. And so I encourage people that the financial markets are always going to be there for you. Bitcoin is always going to be there for you. You don't have to obsess over it. Just focus on your craft, do what you do really well, and then earn in fiat and then save in Bitcoin. It's a really easy recipe. And then in your case, we evangelize and hopefully people earn in Bitcoin rather than having to earn in fiat and then convert it to Bitcoin because it's more cost effective that way. And so whenever, like for example, I've got 30 employees here. People on the desk, we're always trading with each other in Bitcoin. So sometimes somebody will put their hand up and say, I've got lunch, but you guys square me away in Bitcoin. So they'll put the Uber Eats order on their card, and then the rest of the team will just ping them a spot of Bitcoin for their portion of the meal. And that's just like just internally on the desk, right? And that's what I do with my brother and my sister. We go out. Sometimes I'm shouting dinner. Sometimes my brother is, and I'll cover him in Bitcoin. And so that's a really cool way of just getting amongst it. Is focus on your craft, let Bitcoin do the heavy lifting, and especially when you're young you should be trying a lot of different industries and professions and skills to see what you're good at.
it's such an amazing message, man. It's so powerful. And when you start embodying and saving in Bitcoin, it allows you to pursue your passions and try things. I've, like you, I've tried so many different side hustles, different businesses, and most of them have failed. They've worked enough that I could stack some Bitcoin on the side, but they've not been any $1 million ideas previously. But because it's been saved in Bitcoin and I've been careful of how I've looked after my money and energy and time, it's allowed me ultimately now to follow my passion, which is down the Bitcoin rabbit hole and sharing that message with other people. And that's the impact that I want to make.
It's awesome.
So, with that being said, and making an impact, how do you personally stay grounded while operating in this industry that moves so quickly, and what keeps you doing what you're doing?
I'm very blessed, to be honest with you. I've got a wife, two kids, another one on the way due February, God willing. And for me, that really helps me stay focused and in touch with reality because my son and my daughter, they're 5 and 2 respectively. They don't care about the price of Bitcoin. They don't care about what's happening in the market that day. They just want to have a play in the backyard and have a kick of the footy or go for a spot of dinner or something with their old man. And so for me, what I do is hanging out with my family, and I've got two fantastic business partners that I run Stormrake with. They keep me grounded as well. So I'm very blessed that both in business and in my personal life, I've got great people around me that help me keep in touch with reality, and I don't lose sense of sanity because in this space you can get a little bit crazy pretty quickly just because the way of how quickly everything is moving, how quickly narratives change, prices change, sentiment changes. One day I'm people's worst enemy. The next day I'm their best friend just because they bought a bunch of Bitcoin. So I think that for me, it really does boil down to the fact that in my personal life, I've got a fantastic little unit, my own kids, my own wife that helps me stay in touch with reality because they couldn't care less what happened in the market that day. They just want me to hang around and have some fun. That's it.
Yeah, and that's the power of it, and that's hope for many people to be living that life that you are living. So if Gen Z are listening to this and are waking up to what is possible if they take some responsibility for their money, what do you see the world looking like for them? What's the possibilities?
Endless, my friend. You guys have got the technology age, you've got the AI era, you've got Bitcoin as money. There's so much ample opportunity and overabundance of opportunity, if you will, that you can do whatever you like. You can sit down with a large language model like ChatGPT or Claude and spin up countless business ideas and try different things. And you can then try things and then buy some Bitcoin and then let the Bitcoin sit and just do different things. And I had my son when I was 25, for example. So I was a young dad, and I love that because it just allowed me as he's getting older and bigger and stronger, I can keep up with him. You know what I mean? I don't feel like I'm just like, panting as I'm just chasing him up a flight of stairs or something. And so for a lot of people who are, growing up in Australia now 20, 25, and they want to know what they can do, guys, there's so much opportunity. The amount of technology and the ease of access to technology that you have, and how you can quickly iterate on different ideas. I mean, I wake up at 3, 4 a.m. sometimes, crack open ChatGPT, and then just spar out different ideas for my business here at Stormrake. Some of it is good, some of it is bad. I have a great team around me that I can then work on that idea even further because I'll spitball with ChatGPT at like 3, 4 a.m. in the morning. I'll then take some of those ideas into the office, chat with my business partners, tease out what works, put aside or can what doesn't, and then take to market an idea that was just birthed out of just a 3 a.m. Water run. And so I love that. And I think that's what people have to realize is that there is so much opportunity out there. Don't feel like, especially in Australia, where we're so blessed and privileged to have an abundance of resources, abundance of opportunity, that you shouldn't have a scarcity mindset. There are places in the world where they don't know whether they're going to wake up tomorrow because of the fact that something could come in overhead and just take them out. And it's a horrific feeling, right? I come from a Lebanese family. They left Lebanon during the Lebanese Civil War in the 70s so that they can have a better life here in Australia. And when they were crossing over borders, they didn't know if they were going to make it. And so that kind of stuff really puts into perspective how lucky we are here in Australia and how much opportunity we have. Yes, there are some things working against us, like cost of living is crazy. Your Aussie dollar is going through the floor. We've got a government that is hell bent on taxing you into oblivion. So yes, there are factors and forces that are working against you and conspiring against you, if you will. But at the same time, you put that aside because that is just such a small part of the overall piece in the picture. Yes, there are some things that you have to keep in mind that aren't favorable, but in terms of if you stack up, side by side, what is working for you and what's working against you, what's working for you is infinitely greater than what's working against you. And so having that mindset of abundance and privilege allows you to go out there and make the best of a good quality life.
Yeah, there's so much abundance around. I like to say to people that if they just look around them, there's people doing what they want to do. So that in itself is proof that they can do it. They just need the self-belief within them to take the action to do it. And if you're feeling, or if you're struggling to see the abundance, I also say just go and walk around and have a look at all the buildings around you, all the cars. Look how much wealth, money is in the world. Those people all have problems. And it's funny you mentioned ChatGPT and these ideas and how quick you can get to market. I built a whole website yesterday for our program that we're going to launch. And I've got no experience in building websites. And it looks like some serial graphic designers created it. And I just put into ChatGPT and it told me how to do everything. So
Nice.
there's no excuses in the time we're living now to not be taking action. And I love that message you say. I'm mindful of the time. I know you've got to get away. So what I'll do is I'll put all of your information, the link to your company's website in the description, because I love what you guys are doing. And I think my generation that have been saving, that have been frugal with their money, but are seeing the light and seeing the opportunity Bitcoin brings, can really benefit from your services to look after them, protect them, make sure they're being safe. But before we finish, I want to hand the mic over to you. And is there any messages that you'd like to send to the audience to
It's
finish us off?
been, yeah, I mean, it's been a great chat, Finn. It's a bit different from the usual podcast where I'm talking about macro and interest rates and how it's affecting markets and what's happening on prices. It's actually quite a breath of fresh air to actually talk about things outside. I mean, what Bitcoin is outside of it just being a financial asset. So my message to those who are listening to this is get out there, have some fun, experiment, call Stormrake, because we're not only looking for investors to become our clients, but we're also hiring quite aggressively at the moment as well. So if you're young and you've got an idea and you can work in tech, product, sales, or trading and treasury and finance, give me a ring, because this is a fantastic industry, a fantastic asset class to be in. I'm not going to be slowing down my hiring anytime soon, because I'm building for Bitcoin to be a 10 $20 trillion asset class commanding $1 million price tag. So for me, I want to be able to build the infrastructure, the plumbing that most people are going to be using in years and decades to come. And so for those who are listening at home, definitely get stuck into Bitcoin. We'd love to take care of you as an investor, but reach out and have a chat, because we want people to work with us as well and be a part of this transformation, not just be a tourist.
Bish, it's been awesome chatting and having you on, guys. I'll put all of that so you can contact Bisher and Stormrake in the description below. And we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you, Finn. Appreciate you.